Hello, and welcome to the fundamentals of Section 504. The purpose of this quick PowerPoint is to share the teacher's role in the 504 process. Section 504 states many things. To capture the essence of 504, no qualified disabled person shall, on the basis of disability, be excluded from, predication in, be denied the benefit of, or otherwise be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity which receives financial federal assistance. Since Lindbergh receives financial federal assistance, we are to adhere to all of the guidelines presented in 504. The purpose of 504 is to ensure that students with disabilities receive the education that all students deserve. It is our role as educators on a 504 team to determine if our student is qualified for Section 504 and if they need any accommodations or services to help level the playing field for the student. So, what we as educators must consider when determining if a student qualifies for the 504 is whether the student has a physical or a mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, has a record of such impairment, or is regarded as having an impairment. If there is one word I would really like for you to remember when it comes to determining a student's 504 eligibility, it is substantially. There are times a student may have a diagnosis from a psychologist or psychiatrist. However, we as educators do not determine 504 eligibility based on diagnosis, but on a disability that substantially limits one or more major life activities. The number of students referred for 504 increases every year. 2% of our population has a 504 plan, and we expect this to increase as we are seeing higher percentages of students with ADHD, anxiety, Asperger's, and bipolar disorders. Regardless of the diagnosis, your role as a knowledgeable team member will still be to determine if the student's disability substantially impacts a major life activity, such as reading, concentrating, thinking, communicating, walking, breathing, and many other health-related issues. Child Find is a legal obligation under Section 504. Child Find Guideline requires teachers, counselors, and administrators that are knowledgeable about a student that may have a disability to refer the student to the 504 Process Committee. When a student is referred, it does not mean that the student will be eligible for a 504 plan. However, it does mean that we are following proper procedures to identify students. If you suspect a student may have a disability that substantially impacts a major life activity, please contact your counselor. Once a student is referred for a 504, a knowledgeable team is put together to provide teacher input and review student data. Your role during the eligibility meeting is to provide student data. This could include grades, completed assignments, number of times students is off task, etc. Or you could report that you have no academic or health-related issues in the classroom. As a knowledgeable team member, you are going to provide your experience with the student in the classroom. After all the student data is shared during the eligibility meeting, the team will determine if the student does or does not meet the requirements of a 504 plan. Many teachers and counselors are nervous about this role. They worry that if they do not mark the student eligible, they may appear in a long appeal process. However, a district should only worry if they do not follow the 504 process. If we follow the proper process for determining 504 eligibility, then we can be authentic in providing student input. We will never be penalized for providing your experiences for working with a student, and you will never be penalized on your input on whether a student is or is not eligible for a 504. Just like following an EP, 504s must be followed and fully implemented in the classroom. Please read each student's plan carefully and make sure you are providing the appropriated accommodations for a student. Here's a quick flowchart for 504. Your counselors will be a great support for working through the 504 process. Along with the 504 process, counselors and nurses will work as the case managers for students that have 504 plans. If you have any questions regarding a student's 504 plan, they should be the first to call. The most important takeaways from this video include 504 prohibits discrimination based on a disability. Child Find is your role in the referral process. Knowledgeable team member. You are a knowledgeable team member in your role in eligibility and evaluating data. And finally, follow the 504 process and document all decisions. Thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, please contact Jill Lawson at extension 8644.